What's up, guys and gals? It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. It's time for Kengan Omega latest chapter review, chapter 322, where we're really splitting up into 3 parts, standard weekly chapter sort of idea. The first part being Cao Pang versus Gao Lang. We do get to see a good portion of their sparring match where they are both seemingly going all out and stuff like that. Gao Lang, of course, still having the upper hand over Cao Pang. The second part following a little bit of Yan and, the worm and sort of idea like that, like sort of prepping for this big battle royale, which some commenters have already, not on my videos necessarily, but on Reddit and on Komiki itself, have said, have been dubbing it the Shen Games. I believe that's sort of a play on the Cell games from Dragon Ball Z sort of idea. So I'm good with that, calling it the Shen Games, you know what I mean? And then the final part is all about, I think it's a very much fourth wall break to, the whole, why did we get rid of Eddie for Gilbert, you know what I mean? And I think there's a little bit of self-awareness going on, but anyways, we'll get to that. Because honestly, that pretty much sums it up. This is another chapter where we're sort of setting up, and unlike what I predicted from last week and stuff like that, because I'm defending the fact that we're seeing all the rest of the legends and the main cast sort of all improving, all training, all getting ready to protect, of course, one of their own in Oma and Ryuki. And there's a little bit of this sort of camaraderie. There's a little bit of this, because some people are saying, well, that's sort of out of left field. And I don't think it is. Remember, you get very, very close. Just watch any wartime film and stuff like that. You get very close when you're in the trenches with someone. So you know someone for 3 weeks. That could be the equivalent of 3 years in peaceful times. You know what I mean? But you get to know them when when the chips are down, sort of idea. There's a lot there. You know what I mean? When you've been through thick and thin, even for only a few hours to a few days with someone. So everyone of the original Ashura cast is all going to be on the side of helping out Oma. You know what I mean? That's not unprecedented in real life along with fiction. So I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? It actually has merit. If you don't like it as a storytelling beat, that's fine. But it does make sense. Narratively, there's nothing wrong with it. So there's nothing wrong there, because Cao Pang is saying it here at the first part of the chapter. Once again, Gao Lang versus Cao Pang. Cao Pang has improved. Gao Lang is acknowledging this and stuff like that. He's managing to not only going in, he's like all fired up like the normal Cao Pang that we know. He's like, let's go, let's bring it on, sort of idea. And he's all fired up, very much main character energy, but he's also improved. He's learning to dodge. He might be screaming and yelling, but he's not just rushing head first into everything and trying to power his way through. He's using tactics. He's being strategic. And he's managing to dodge some of Gao Lang's blows here. And Gao Lang immediately switches from boxing straight into his Muay Thai. Like, they are not playing around, which is something I've been wanting Gao Lang to do since his inception, is the fact that why are you limiting yourself to your boxing just to get on the back foot and then bring out the Muay Thai when you get shoved into a corner? Why not bring it out from the get-go and win the match before you get backed into a corner? You know what I mean? I wish he had done this in the Carlos fight, in the Agito fight. I've been wanting him to do this for a while, so it's nice. Of course, it's only a sparring match, but we get to see him pull this stunt off. But according to Gao Lang here in the chapter, he even says he's not charging headfirst because he's backing away. He's still got all that hype energy and the fire burning underneath him, as Cao Pang does. But he definitely has this more, as Gao Lang remarks, he's thinking about things. He's got he's fine-tuned his style of fighting. You know what I mean? So you've improved, and he acknowledges it. So they exchange blows, they exchange bobs sort of idea. And they were within each other's range, so it's not like, okay, you're in my range now, you're in my territory now, you know what I mean? They're both within each other's range, so whoever gets a solid hit off, it's going to do some crazy damage. Cao Pang is recognizing the dangers now that he's fine-tuned his fighting, now that he's become more self-aware as a fighter and improved as a fighter. He's recognizing the dangers, but the adrenaline rush as well. He's reached a new high, as it were, when facing off against Gao Lang within his range. You know what I mean? So that's really, really cool. But he wants to go further and further. So he manages to land at seemingly an undefended kick against Gao Lang's torso. And he takes that opportunity and he rushes in. But boom, once again, as I said, Gao Lang has already brought out the Muay Thai early on. He's not just limiting himself to the boxing. And boom comes the elbow to strike against Sao Pang in the jaw. He takes it right in the jaw undefended. I would argue that's definitely the better of the two hits. But of course, Sao Pang, you think he's going to go down from this. And any other average fighter, an unimproved Sao Pang would likely falter to this elbow to the jaw. As we know, anything to the jaw and to the neck is almost a TK. It's like it's almost a finisher, almost every time. It's not something you lose consciousness if you take that blow the wrong way, or you could argue the right way. It's basically an instant knockout. But no, he stands his ground, and he goes forth. Now, Gao Lang is shocked by this and managing to dodge the recovery blow, the counter from Sao Pang after taking the elbow. But he's not going down. He's not going down without a fight. Gao Lang's just like, yep, his endurance is as good as ever. And then we skip over the rest of the fight, basically showcasing that Gao Lang did come out on top once again. Not surprising. Gao Lang has only improved. I still argue he should have won the Agito fight, the matchup in the real tournament, but it is what it is. We have a really good conversation, though, here before we move on to the worm part. We have a good conversation between the two of them, that Sao Pang is there being like, damn, you're still beyond me. Even though I've improved so much in these past few years, you're still better than me, Gao Lang, and like, how is this possible? And you gotta feel for the man. You know what I mean? You gotta feel for him. Like, this is what it is. And he just says, this sucks. Like, how can I call myself your rival when you're that much further ahead of me? So Sao Pang's basically saying, like, I'm barely crawling my way to the A tier, to the bottom of A tier, top of B tier, and you are in that S tier already. Like, we aren't even comparable right now, and it sucks. And Gao Lang acknowledges he's doing a very Kuroki thing. I, Gao Lang, am still green. He doesn't say that, but he says, I'm only halfway to my goal. So don't feel bad about this. Like, I might be better than you right now, but I'm far from where I want to be as well. This is why Kuroki and Gao Lang and guys like this are so beloved by the community as a whole for the most part, is because this is why they have fan bases, because they're not resting on their laurels like, yeah, I'm top shit. They're like, no, I still have plenty to improve on. Just because I'm up here doesn't mean there's not another tier above me that I need to reach, that I'm not satisfied, And Gao Lang acknowledges this, saying, I've been defeated as well, and all my experience, however, he's doing the talk of, you learn more from failure than you do from success. Or your experiences have made you better as a result, regardless whether you win or lose. These experiences have made me who I am standing before you today, and I do not regret that. So, very self-awareness, both characters. It's a good exchange between them, and he's sort of says, like, you'll get to my level, like, come up and join me. And I love the response from Sao Pang, because it's very much, we get this in so many works of fiction. In One Piece, Mihawk's like, come join me at the top, Zoro, right? And we have other characters. We have characters do this all the time. The one that just came to mind was Mihawk, but it's in almost every series. In Food Wars, Shinomiya says it about Soma, like, get up here, Yukihira, come join me at the top of what it means to stand at the top of the culinary world. Like, hurry up and join me up here, because I know you can do it. We have these guys who know that they're better currently than our characters, but they're like, yeah, get up here. Classic, but it's somewhat turned on its head here in the best possible way, where Sao Pang's like, absolutely not. He says, getting to your level isn't what I'm striving for. I want to surpass you no matter what it takes. And I love that, because normally it's said like, yes, I will reach, I have finally, usually it's like we see these representations, these metaphors, given visual form and stuff like that. We see it all the time. where it's like I'm finally within his realm, within his league. I've got to his level. And then they get to fight, you know what I mean? But no one just straight up usually says, and this is why I like the turn, instead of saying, yeah, I'll reach your level, I'll be on your level one day, and then you and I will decide who's better. That's normally the way the conversation goes. This time it's, no. I'm not working this hard to get on your level. I'm working twice as hard to surpass you the next time we fight, you know what I mean? And it's just that subtle change in the dialogue that makes it just taking a trope and tweaking it different, because that's normally what happens. You know what I mean? Mihawk is saying, climb up to my level. Zoro's like, I'll get there up to your level one day. We see it in the movies and stuff. I'm not there yet. I'm not on his tier yet. And that's how we're always saying. Zoro wants to surpass Mihawk, but it's not said in so many words. It's always said, I want to get onto your level. I want to get in your realm, in your field. This time, Sao Pang's just like skipping. He's skipping that middleman dialogue. He's skipping the middleman. He's like, no, I'm not going to get to your level, then defeat you and go beyond. No. I'm skipping that middleman junction, and I'm going to get beyond you. Like, I wouldn't be satisfied. I'm not going to stop just because I get into your tier. I'm going to just surpass you all in one big, leapfrog. I'm going to leapfrog you, And I'm like, all right. Fair enough, because that's the attitude we want our characters to have, and he's like, be ready for it and stuff, right? So Gao Lang and him are like, before the final showdown, because it's coming soon, let's spar again, let's keep on going and stuff like that, right? And then Sao Pang ends it off with, if anyone's going to protect Oma and Ryuki, it's going to be me, so he's very, Justin Timberlake about it. Sao Pang's been listening to his instinct, and what I like about this, as I already talked about, is the fact that these guys, of course, are going to have this camaraderie with guys like Oma especially. Not so much Ryuki. Yeah, I can see the argument against the Ryuki stuff. How much does Sao Pang really know Ryuki? How much has he interacted with him? But Oma's a different story, so I can see it. And it's just like, we can't let the worm have their way. That's what it boils down to. Second part of the chapter, as I said, we have Yan and them talking about the fact that now that we have these direct subordinates, we're not counting our covert operatives, because of course we have to have somebody in the Kengan Association has been a worm all along. Dun dun dun. That's probably going to happen. But they're not counting on the covert operatives. They're counting under the direct subordinates. The dudes, I think, they were the ones with the white worm tattoos sort of idea, like guys who are actually worth a damn. So he says, there's six of them, including Fu here. There's 6 of them, including Fu. So assuming that Yan joins, we've got 6 dudes that are going to be very difficult to deal with. Yan himself. Zaiji, is he going to show up? Is G going to show up? I don't know. Shen, of course, is going to be there. Then he said we've got now about 100 combatants, and I'd say only 2 or 3 of them are potential assets in combat. So he says they've got about 100 people, but he thinks that only 2 or 3 of them out of the 100 are worthwhile throwing into the Battle Royale. Odd way to say, we got about 100 fighters, but none of them are any fucking good. And it's like, alright, weird thing to say. Then he acknowledges that, you really want to bring everybody in. You want to bring in our full force, because if the worst should happen, you know what I mean? And they're also going to be difficult to control and rein in everybody all at once. And supposedly there's some guests, the combined hand-picked combatants, the direct subordinates. So some hand-picked combatants, so that's 2 to 3 people, 6 other guys, plus the guests. Now, we don't know who these guests supposedly are. We see the real Nicholas, LeBanner. Is he considered one of the guests? Or not, but they argue that they are still short-handed when it comes to fighting off Purgatory, the Kengan Association, and their affiliations all in one time, that they're sort of understaffed in a way. So is he counted as part of the guests? We see a bunch of silhouettes standing there in under umbrellas in the rain sort of idea. They've reached Japan. How many are the numbered guests? We don't know, but they still think it's a little understaffed. Now they're talking about the Westward faction, which ties into the last part of the chapter, talking about how many people is the Westward faction going to send us, and they say there's complications with that, and we see Gilbert, as I said, Gilbert trying to pull off this Eddie stuff, and the Westward faction in the Middle Eastern group of the Westward faction. So basically, they count the West, which arguably the West used to mean Europe, You know what I mean? Like everything, the East is considered basically, when you look at the whole continent, when you look at Eurasia, when you look at, Asia and Europe, everything like this side was always sort of considered the West. The East is basically, and to the Japanese, everyone west of them is the West, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So, even though it's like weird to think of the Middle Eastern group as the westward faction, depending on where you're standing in the world, West is West, East is East, right? So, fact of the matter is that they're sitting here like me in Canada. Japan is closer to the West than the East to me, so I'd call them the West. Do you see what I'm saying? Anyways, so fact of the matter is that these guys who are leading the Middle Eastern faction are pretty much like, yeah, we're pulling out of the fight with the Kure clan. And he's sort of like, all right, what's the reasoning? And first I'm sort of like, we don't want that smoke. Is sort of what I first assumed. But this is where Gilbert's like, well, so what are you talking about? You're betraying the westward faction? Like, I'm supposed to be in charge here. This is where I think it's a bit of a fourth wall break. I think Sandro, many people have already commented on this, but many people are saying he must read the comments. Like, he must know what's going on in the community and how the community has felt about getting rid of Edward and installing Gilbert and all this stuff, right? Like, most people are assuming that this is what's going down. And here at the end of the chapter, we have him basically saying, as I said, a fourth wall break, being like, we don't recognize you as our leader. At least Edward had charisma, but you are a rambunctious, self-indulgent little brat, and we won't follow you. We're not going to swear our lives to you. And Gilbert's like, the fuck? You son of a bitch? Now, this whole line reads as exactly how the community has felt about Gilbert. It's like we replaced Edward, and even though he's looking like Edward, he's dressing like Edward, and trying to act like Edward, he's not Edward. He's lacking that it factor in a sense. So I like the self-awareness of Sandro. This feels 110% intentional. And he's basically using these dudes as a voice for the community, basically saying, Edward had charisma. You don't have that it factor. You don't have that sixth sense that makes us like you and want to root for you. You're just a pseudo Edward, and you're not that good at it. You know what I mean? You're trying to be cool, and you're just not. So what I like about this is the self-awareness and the fact that he brings up Kure Ryan. He's like, but here's what we can do. How about you go and take down the demon? How about you go take down the Kure clan's most powerful fighter, Ryan, and then we'll give you our loyalty. Like, you want to unite us? You want to prove that you're the next Edward? You want to be undisputed in your decision making? You go take care of the one threat to all of us, Kure Ryan, and then you demonstrate that you are on his level, that you can take him down, and then we'll acknowledge you as the strongest. We'll acknowledge and follow you. And I'm sitting there, end of chapter, and my thing is, will this happen? Is he going to attempt to do this during the Battle Royale, during the Shen Games, presented by Heat Tap? Is he going to try to do this during the Shen Games, or is he going to try to assassinate him or fight him beforehand? I was hoping that this was all going to go down during the Battle Royale. I don't mind seeing the sparring matches, like between Gao Lang and Xiao Pang and stuff like that, but I don't want any major battles to take place outside of Ganryu Island. Whether it's officially sanctioned during the Shen Games, or it's like an outside effect, like when the Guardians all attacked and there was a coup and all this stuff. That's all good, but I want all the fights, every fight that's non-training, I want them all to go down on Ganryu Island during the Shen Games, sanctioned or unsanctioned. So what I'm hoping, because the only reason that this worries me is because when they were talking about the Westward faction, when the Worm was bringing it up, when Yan and stuff was bringing it up, it's like, the Westward faction is supposed to send us men for the Shen Games. However, that might be a problem because right now there's turmoil within the Westward faction. The agreement to getting them in line is to get rid of Cure Ryan. Ideally, from Gilbert's perspective, he would take him out before the Shen Games go down. That's the only concern I have there, because I want to see his final boss, who is Gilbert. Gilbert versus Ryan has been set up. That's narratively, that's that's who he has to fight, right? I want to see that, but I want to see it during all the other fights. You know, I wanted to give it multiple chapters. I want it to do, but I don't want it to happen preemptively. If it does happen preemptively, I assume that both of them are going to walk away from the fight and be like, we'll settle the final score during the Shen Games. Presented by Heat Tap. I don't want that to happen either, because I'm like, alright, that's just basically a bit of a cock tease. You know what I mean? That's sort of blue balling us for the actual fight. So don't do that at all. Skip the middleman and just give us the full-on fight, the final confrontation, during the Battle Royale. You know? But what do you guys think? You know, that's the chapter. That's my feelings on it. And I hope that we're not going to try to do a preemptive fight right before this. Let's just get the Battle Royale. Now that we've seen everyone's training, everyone's focused, everyone's ready to do their shit on both sides of the battle, let's get to Ganryu Island already. You know what I mean? I think we're ready for it. In the next couple chapters, I want us to be heading to Ganryu Island at the very least. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always. And assuming my computer doesn't screw up, this should be out today, Wednesday, the day of the chapter and stuff like that. I've just been having some computer issues with rendering and stuff like that. I think I got that all sorted, but we'll have to wait and see. You know, a few more videos in, and then I'll be good with it. You know, it is what it is. But anyways, hopefully this comes out today, and you guys can let me know how you feel about the chapters and the direction, and is the pacing going all right? Like, should we be heading to Ganryu Island as soon as I'm saying? Should we have a few more chapters in between? Are there any loose ends to tie up before we do that? Let me know what you guys think. And, yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday for chapter 323 of Kengan Omega. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. Have a good one, everyone. Sayonara.